next few poses will be done in a standing position. Please move slowly and at your own pace. Keep the sturdy chair nearby for balance if needed. If you find that I'm talking faster than you are moving, please take your time and do fewer repetitions. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Place the feet about hips-width apart and grounded on the floor. Lift the toes and spread them nice and wide, and feel the navel pull gently in towards the spine. Push the toes into the floor and lean forward just a little bit. Feel the muscles that keep you steady. Lean back just a little bit and feel the toes come up. Feel the muscles that keep you steady in this position. Now push all four corners of the feet into the floor. Notice the steadiness of mountain pose. Notice how the steadiness of mountain pose feels. On the next inhale, roll the shoulders towards the ears, back and down so the shoulders are slightly open. Let the palms rest open to the side. Inhale and let the arms rise with the palms facing up. Exhale, bend at the elbows and allow the hands to come down the center line. Sink into the knees just a little. Repeat this again. Inhale, lift the arms with the palms facing up. Allow the hands and face to be relaxed. Continue with this movement at your own pace. Breathe as you move, and try to coordinate the breath with the movement. On the next breath, lift the arms back over the head. Fingertips point in, palms face up. Imagine that you have candles in the palms of your hands and you do not want to spill them. Turn the fingertips so they face behind you. The palms remain up. Turn the fingertips to the side and then to the front like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again, towards one another, and then forwards like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again. Let's do this rotation one more time. After the second rotation, allow the hands to cascade down by the side and let them rest. Pause for one slow inhale and exhale. One more breath. Inhale, exhale. This next exercise is excellent for strengthening the spine and gently stretching the muscles of the back, front, and sides. Attempt to make the movement easeful and gentle. We will do these movements with various arm positions. The first arm position is the easiest. Please be sure to stay with the one that feels best for your body. We will demonstrate them all. Take the right hand to the waist, and then the left. Roll the shoulders open. And on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale to the center. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale back to the center. Roll the shoulders up back and down. And on the next inhale, gently pull the navel towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin and feel a sense of lengthening through the front of the body. On the next exhale, begin to fold gently forward. It does not have to be all the way. Bend the knees slightly. Inhale and rise back to a standing position. Open the left arm to the side. Keep the elbow bent. Leave the right hand on the waist. Inhale. Exhale, lean slightly to the right, and then return back to the center. Bring the left hand down to the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. Exhale and lengthen to the left. Return to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Gently pull the navel in towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward halfway. Inhale back to standing. Open the left arm again. Inhale, and on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale and return back to the center. Place the left hand on the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale and return back to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Lengthen through the front of the body. Slightly pull the shoulder blades together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward. Knees slightly bent. Inhale and return to standing in mountain pose. Pause for a moment. Inhale and exhale. For this warrior sequence, attempt to keep the movements gentle and relaxed. If you notice that you are struggling, move the feet closer together. Lower the arms or make the movements smaller. This pose is great for strengthening the legs, respiration, and opening the shoulders. Step the left foot forward just a few feet. The back foot points in at a 45-degree angle. The front knee bends and the hips face front if possible. Inhale, open the arms and bend at the elbows. On the exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards each other. Inhale, open the arms and push the heart softly forwards. Relax the shoulders. Exhale, bring the arms together. Inhale, open the arms to where you feel comfortable. Exhale, relax the arms inwards. Inhale, open and expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands back down by the side. Return to mountain pose. One breath here. Inhale, exhale. Step the right foot forward. Take a moment, there's no rush. Ground the back foot into the floor. Bend the front knee. When you are ready, open the arms. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards one another. Inhale, open the arms. This is a relaxed opening in the chest. Exhale, bring the hands and arms towards one another. Inhale, repeat again, creating spaciousness with a full inhale. Exhale, contract and relax the arms slightly. 2 more times at your own pace. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Let the hands rest down by the side and return back to mountain pose. Pause here for a few breaths.
Welcome back to the 22nd online episode of Peacetime, hosted every Sunday morning by Peace Point with myself, Pratt Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from Dhammakaya International Meditation Center in Azusa, California. Today's session will be about an hour and 10 minutes long and will consist of a 20-minute talk and 30 minutes of meditation, finishing up with 20 minutes of conclusion and news updates. Last time you saw me, we looked at getting in touch with the real you and appreciating others. The topic for the Dhamma talk today, continuing with our theme about the defilements of ignorance, will be getting out of your head and into your life. Again, this session, for what it's worth, I would encourage you to send in any questions you have by emailing me at peacetime.questions@gmail.com so that I can have a shot at answering them next time round. I've always been fascinated by the way that meditation links with therapy, whether it be mindfulness-based stress reduction or mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, because of the proven applications of meditation in the clinical context. The latest addition to the stable of mindfulness-based therapies is acceptance and commitment therapy, which, like mindfulness-based stress reduction, is a low-level intervention that can be administered by those without clinical training, and can even be initiated by the client themselves. In the light of many materials that have only recently become available to me, I've been able to flesh out today's talk on acceptance and commitment, making a popular talk a little bit longer than it used to be. So just to spend a few moments backtracking on the aspects of delusion we've already studied in previous sessions. A couple of talks ago, we looked at the defilements of implementation in the form of procrastination, lethargy, and mediocrity. Last time, we looked at defilements of self-image in terms of arrogance, conceit, boastfulness, and ingratitude. Delusion lies at the root of any destructive emotion, whether it be depression, skepticism, or despair. It can interfere in the way we see ourselves and our expectations about life. It is considered the most dangerous category of mental impurity because it is long-lived and leads us to do extreme things. The irony of defilements of delusion is that we don't know that we don't know. Delusion can indicate a hunger for existential knowledge, or a lack of answers to the eternal questions, or sense of purpose in life. As we heard way back in session 11, knowledge comes on three distinct levels: theoretical knowledge, hands-on knowledge, and insight knowledge arising from a still mind. Only the insight level of knowledge works on a deeper level permanently to transform the bearer of the knowledge, and this explains how mental shortcomings such as delusion can be overcome by developing insight through meditation. Such insight knowledge, and happiness more generally, becomes inaccessible to us when we get lost in thought. We are always on the way to something else instead of being present in the moment. We get caught up in the assumption that something is wrong with me, or we have the fear that round the corner I'm going to fail. Such thinking leads to a constant state of fear and shame that comes from identification with our thoughts. We judge ourselves too harshly and find it challenging to lighten up on ourselves, leading to addictive behaviors. In relationships, we end up with the delusion that we don't deserve anyone else's love. We can't accept ourselves because we are full of personal failings, because we have to rely on caffeine to start the day, because we are unable to cheerfully ignore aches and pains, because we can't resist complaining and boring people with our troubles, because we are resentful about getting criticism and blame, because we can't face the world without lies and deceit, because we can't relax without getting drunk, and we can't get to sleep without pills. Or it may be more serious, like a person who can't accept the implications of a life-changing injury, such as a person with a multiple leg fracture who doesn't believe they will ever be able to walk again. We try to live up to impossibly high standards instilled by our culture, and falling short we feel inferior, less than, or as if we've been set up to fail. Such thinking is particularly toxic for social minorities, where you feel constant pressure to live up to standards set by mainstream society, whether it be financial success, the way we look, our body shape, gender orientation, sexual orientation, or physical capacity. What we have or what we are is never enough and causes us deep suffering. Psychotherapy has a guaranteed clientele amongst those shamed by or failing to live up to the expectations of their families, who impose conditions on them like, here's how you need to be to earn our respect and love. So, in the face of our imperfections, what is the best way through? The possible way out from under is to change the nature of the thoughts in our heads, because, as Mahatma Gandhi said, carefully watch your thoughts, for they will become your words. Manage and watch your words before they become your actions. Consider and judge your actions, for they will become your habits. Acknowledge and watch your habits, for they shall become your values. Understand and embrace your values, for they will become your destiny. So how can we awaken from these habitual chains of thinking, feeling, and then acting in a way that inspire happiness in our sense of being? How can we get out of our head and into our life? If we were able to do something for ourselves about this suffering, mainly caused by destructive thoughts, wouldn't it be a welcome alternative to therapy? So, today we'll look at the telltale signs of self-destructive thoughts, the problem we have when we identify with such thoughts, acceptance and commitment as a solution to such thought identification, and how mindfulness can help with the task. If you were completely free of the influence of any such sort of negative thoughts, your mind would be happy all the time. You would have the head space or the heart space to be happy. However, there are many telltale signs that we are lacking in the happiness department. Psychologists use a whole slew of statements to measure people's level of happiness. For example, if you find you're feeling sad for most of the time, or you feel your future is hopeless and things will only get worse, these would be indicators of sadness or pessimism undermining your happiness. If, as you look back on your life, you see nothing but a series of failures, or you can't seem to get any pleasure from the things you used to enjoy, or if you feel quite guilty most of the time, these would indicate how fusion with negative perceptions is undermining your happiness. If you feel like you're being punished, or you feel disappointed with yourself, or if you blame yourself for everything bad that happens, these would show how self-hate and self-criticism are undermining your sense of happiness. If you feel tempted to end things, or you constantly feel like crying even when you can't, or if you feel restless and can't stay still, these would show how sorrow, self-destructive feelings, anguish and agitation are undermining your happiness. If you find it hard to work up an interest in anything, or have increasing difficulty in making decisions, or if you don't consider yourself worthy, these would indicate how loss of interest, indecision, and perceived unworthiness in your thoughts are undermining your sense of happiness. If you find you don't have enough energy to do anything, or if you find you sleep most of the day, or if you are irritable all the time, it would indicate how loss of energy, changes in sleep patterns, and irritable thoughts are undermining your happiness. If you find yourself binge eating, or your concentration span is diminished, or you feel too tired to do a lot of the things you used to do, it would indicate how thoughts of fatigue, changes in appetite, or attention deficit are undermining your happiness. So, our lack of happiness is betrayed by thoughts of sadness, pessimism, past failure, loss of pleasure, guilt, punishment feelings, self-dislike, self-criticism, suicidal ideation, sorrow, agitation, loss of interest in life, perceived unworthiness, loss of energy, changes in sleep patterns, irritability, changes in appetite, attention deficit, and fatigue can undermine our happiness. You'll notice that all of these are to do with our mental response to the circumstances and not the circumstances themselves. Usually the Buddhist attitude is to fight back in the face of weakness or see the danger in small things concerning our personal faults. But there are exceptions to this, rather like untangling a knot, where just pulling as hard as you can will only make the tangle worse. Where we need to try softer, not harder. Where acceptance allows us to stand our ground instead of backsliding or going to pieces. Where we have a personal setback such as trauma or a life-changing diagnosis. In Buddhism, this strategy is described as the difference in perfections between patience, khanti, and perseverance, virya. The heart of the problem undermining our happiness is identifying too much with our thoughts. It's due to a loss of the psychological flexibility that usually allows you to distance yourself from thoughts or reframe your thoughts. It leads to an inability to accept the difficulties that come with life, thereby closing us off from any possibility to do anything about our problems. It concerns the relationship we have to our painful thoughts and feelings that blocks us from our transcendent sense of self, blocks us from living in the present, and blocks us from taking action, meaning we fail to be guided by our deepest values to access a rich and meaningful life. A lot of psychological suffering can be caused by experiential avoidance, which means attempting to avoid or get rid of unwanted private experiences such as unpleasant thoughts, feelings, sensations, urges, or memories. Such efforts to avoid experiences might work in the short term, but in the long term they often fail, and in the process they often create significant psychological suffering. Like any serious sort of addiction, which in the short term seems to make you feel good and gets rid of unpleasant thoughts and feelings, but in the long term it destroys your health and vitality. The core conception of acceptance and commitment is that psychological suffering is caused whenever we are in denial about aspects of experience. As a simple way to summarize the core of problems, therapists use the acronym FEAR, F-E-A-R, where F stands for fusion with your thoughts, E stands for evaluation of experience, A stands for avoidance of your experience, and R stands for reason giving for your unwise behavior. Acceptance and commitment is part of a third wave in psychology that comprises behavior therapies that regard mindfulness and acceptance as important additions to change-oriented treatment strategies. Acceptance and commitment has a large body of empirical data to support its effectiveness. For example, a paper published by Patricia Bach and Stephen C. Hayes in 2002, which showed hospital readmission rates for psychotic patients were cut in half with only 4 hours of acceptance and commitment, primarily using values-guided behavioral interventions and cognitive diffusion techniques to reduce believability for delusions and hallucinations. A growing body of empirical data confirms that cultivating acceptance, mindfulness, and openness to experience is also highly effective for the treatment of depression, anxiety disorders, substance abuse, chronic pain, PTSD, and anorexia. Acceptance and commitment is also a very effective model for life coaching and executive coaching. Overcoming the FEAR or FEAR acronym needs you to practice a different acronym, namely ACT, where ACT is composed of A, which stands for accept your reactions and be present, where C stands for choose a valued direction and where T stands for take action. Acceptance and commitment is a unique and creative approach to a change in behavior, which is a mindfulness-based, values-oriented behavioral therapy that has many parallels to Buddhism, and yet it does not need the person to be religious in any way. Acceptance and commitment has the core message to accept what is out of your personal control and commit to action that improves and enriches your life in order to maximize human potential for a rich, full, and meaningful life. Acceptance is achieved by teaching you psychological skills to deal with your painful thoughts and feelings effectively, in such a way that they have much less impact and influence over you, which by any other name could be known as mindfulness skills. Commitment is achieved by helping you to clarify what is truly important and meaningful to you, in other words, your values, and then use that knowledge to guide, inspire, and motivate you to change your life for the better. When you put all these things together, you develop psychological flexibility. This is the ability to be in the present moment with awareness and openness, and take action guided by your values. The greater your ability to be present, open up, and do what matters, the greater your quality of life, the greater your sense of vitality, well-being, and fulfillment. Acceptance and commitment commonly employs 6 core principles to help clients develop psychological flexibility. The first stage is getting in contact with the present moment, which means being psychologically present, consciously connecting with whatever is happening right here, right now, and experiencing this with openness, interest, receptivity, and curiosity. The second stage of acceptance and commitment is the skill set of learning how to cognitively diffuse emotionally charged experiences, learning to step back from, detach from, distance yourself from, and let go of the unhelpful thoughts, beliefs, worries, or memories that you are caught up with. Instead of struggling to get rid of them, you learn how to let them come and go, just as if they were cars driving by your house. You learn how to step back and watch your thinking so that you can respond effectively instead of getting tangled up or lost in thought. You learn to reduce the tendency to reify thoughts, images, emotions, and memories. Diffusing involves seeing thoughts and feelings for what they are. In other words, passing sensations or irrational things that we tell ourselves, instead of what we think they are, like feelings that will never end or factual truths. The goal of diffusing is not to help you to avoid the experience, but to make it more manageable for you. It may mean using the principle of real but not true for your thoughts in order to reduce their perceived threat to us. Third stage is acceptance, which means making room for painful feelings, urges, and sensations, and allowing them to come and go without a struggle. It means opening up and making room for painful feelings and sensations. You learn how to drop the struggle with them, give them some breathing space, and then let them be there without getting caught up in them or overwhelmed by them. The more you can open up and give those thoughts wiggle room, the easier it is for your feelings to come and go without draining you or holding you back. In the words of the American psychologist Carl Rogers, "It wasn't until I embraced myself just as I am that I felt free to change." When we say yes to those difficult emotions, it creates more space to deal with them than when we say no. The fourth stage is observing the self, which means accessing a transcendent sense of self, a continuity of consciousness which is unchanging. Obsessing, worrying, and playing things over and over in your head keep you stuck. In acceptance and commitment, the observing self is part of you that is responsible for awareness and attention. We don't really have a word for it in everyday language. We normally just talk about the mind, the part of us capable of awareness and attention. But there are two parts to the mind: the thinking part that is responsible for all your thoughts, beliefs, memories, judgments, fantasies, and so forth, And then there's the observing part, the part of your mind that is aware of whatever you are thinking or feeling or doing at any moment. The trick is to observe your weakness, but to take note of your strengths. You give yourself permission to not be good at everything. You acknowledge the difficulty in your life without escaping from it or avoiding it. You realize that you can be in control of how you react, think, and feel. You observe what you're feeling and ask yourself, what are the physical sensations? You notice the way you are talking to yourself as these feelings are experienced. You ask yourself what interpretations you are making about your experience and interrogate whether they are based in reality. You grab onto the strands of your negative self-talk and counter them with realistic ones. You can use questions to challenge your assumptions along the same lines as the self-inquiry work of Byron Katie. She recommends using 4 turnaround questions for every destructive thought. Firstly, when an emotionally charged thought pops up in your mind, you should challenge it with the question, is it true? Follow up with the question, can I absolutely know that it's true? Next, interrogate that thought with the question, how do I react? What happens when I believe that thought? And lastly, ask yourself, how would I be different without this thought? When we consciously turn a question around, it is a way of experiencing the opposite of that thought that we are so caught up in. For example, if an emotionally charged thought pops up in our mind, such as, my husband should listen to me, it can be turned around in 3 different ways. I should listen to my husband. I should listen to myself, and my husband shouldn't listen to me. For each turnaround question, we force ourselves to examine how that alternative scenario might be true. On the basis of these challenges to your assumptions, you can then reevaluate your experience with your newfound outlook. The 5th stage is values, which means that what you want your life to be about, deep in your heart, what you want to stand for, what you want to do with your time on this planet, and what ultimately matters to you in the big picture, what you would like to be remembered for by the people you love. It means discovering what is most important to the truest part of yourself. The 6th and final stage is committed action, which means taking action guided by your values, doing what matters, even if it's difficult or uncomfortable, and carrying them out responsibly. Whether it be a situation you cannot control, a personality trait that is hard to change, or an emotion that overwhelms, by these stages, acceptance allows us the space to move forward. Mindfulness is a hot topic in Western psychology right now, increasingly recognized as a powerful therapeutic intervention for everything from work stress to depression, and also as an effective tool for increasing emotional intelligence. Mindfulness is a mental state of awareness, focus, and openness, which allows you to engage fully in what you're doing in any moment. In a state of mindfulness, difficult thoughts and feelings have much less impact and influence over you. So it's hugely useful for everything from full-blown psychiatric illness to enhancing athletic or business performance. It's impossible to develop acceptance and commitment without at least some mindfulness skills. In many models of coaching and therapy, mindfulness is taught primarily via meditation. However, for acceptance and commitment, meditation is seen as only one way amongst many hundreds of learning skills. And this is a good thing because many people with troublesome thoughts have difficulties meditating. In any case, the more you practice those mindfulness skills, the more you'll be able to become aware of the observing part of your mind and to be able to access it when you need to. Especially at the stage of observing the self, mindfulness allows you to access the transcendent sense of self, a continuity of consciousness which is unchanging. Acceptance and commitment is made more powerful through the application of mindfulness, whether it be the pure awareness or the observing part of the mind. The sort of mindfulness skills useful for developing acceptance and commitment include those that fundamentally change your relationship to painful thoughts and feelings. When you practice these skills in everyday life, painful feelings and unhelpful thoughts have much less impact and influence over you. Therefore, instead of wasting your time and energy in a fruitless battle with your negative thoughts, you can invest your energy in taking action to change your life for the better, guided by your deepest values from a place of calm. To this end, before we go further to look at some success stories of acceptance, we take the opportunity to settle ourselves for some meditation. So, if you would like to find a comfortable sitting position for yourself now as you listen to my guidance. If you'd like to start by settling yourself into a comfortable posture for yourself in meditation. Closing your eyes very gently, much the same way you might close your eyes to go to sleep. Slowing yourself down and relaxing by taking a few deep breaths to yourself. Breathing in the cool, refreshing air from around you, and breathing slowly and smoothly out again. Once again, breathing to the full extent of your lungs. And as you breathe out, you may feel that you are letting go of any previous worries or concerns you may have had. From there, we do our normal pre-flight check to make sure our body is properly relaxed for the meditation ahead. This involves scanning down through the whole of our body to make sure each and every muscle of our body is properly relaxed. So relaxing our forehead, releasing any tension in the muscles there. And relaxing our eyebrows and our eyelids. Taking care that the way we have closed our eyes is as gentle as possible. There's no need to squeeze our eyes tightly shut. It is only necessary to close our eyes to the point where our upper and lower eyelashes are just touching together. And we allow the muscles of our face to become soft. Relaxing our jaw, taking care not to clench our teeth together. And avoiding even pursing our lips. From there, we relax the muscles of our neck. If our shoulders are tense, we allow them to drop to their natural height. We relax both arms, our forearms, and eventually our hands and fingers, so that the way our hands rest in our lap is as light as possible. And we continue by relaxing all the muscles in our torso, relaxing our chest, trunk, and eventually the whole of our abdomen. Taking particular care to relax the muscles across our stomach. We relax both legs, all the way down to our feet and our toes. Till eventually all the way from the top of our head right the way down to the tips of our toes, we feel satisfied. There's no remaining part of our body with any sort of stress or tension anymore. If we do notice places where tension seems to linger on, we do our best to relax it as far as we can. And it should leave us with a sense that our whole body is something we can forget about, or as if it seems to melt away into the atmosphere around us, allowing us to turn our attention instead to the feeling on the inside, a sense of warmth and well-being, or a sense of inner space. And even this feeling on the inside is something we can relax further. If we're able to let go for a few moments of all the normal worries and concerns we associate with our everyday life. Even the urgent things we try to put on one side for now, perhaps with a promise to ourselves that we can come back to think about them at a later time. We try not to dwell on any regrets in our past. So, avoiding the temptation to make plans for the future. Being very much in the here and now. As the present moment is the only place we can really make any difference in our life. So we try to focus on the task in hand. Gathering our attention back from any possible distractions in the outside world to a place of peace and serenity that lies inside us. Generally, the best place is somewhere around the area of our stomach. And by maintaining our attention inside us, it will help our mind to absorb the positive energies of the inner world. At the same time, although we may be aware of what's going on around us, we find that what's on the outside doesn't actually perturb our mind anymore. Instead, our mind absorbs the positive qualities from the inside, a sense of happiness and joy, as if our whole mind were filled with tiny particles of happiness and joy, which then spread to fill the whole of our body and mind. When we feel relaxed and refreshed, both in body and in mind, very gently, using no effort at all, we imagine the inside of our body to be nothing but an empty space or a hollow cavity, without any organs or tissues, without any muscles or bones. Or some people may prefer to imagine their body as being like a transparent bubble, with nothing on the inside. Others who've been meditating longer may have more of a sense that their body has disappeared completely. Meditation is rather like inhabiting a great empty space of our own creation. Whatever your experience of the inner space, allow the focus of your attention to drift slowly downwards on the midline of your body, drifting downwards until it seems to come to rest somewhere in the area of your stomach. In the ideal world, of course, the place will be the seventh base of the mind, the center of the body. But in practice, we tend to use our feeling to tell us the correct place. If it feels right, then it generally is right. For some people, simply bringing the mind into place will already give rise to inner experience, which we can then adopt as the object of our meditation. If that is the case, then any inner imagery, inner feeling can form the focus for our attention. And our brief in the meditation would be simply to observe the way in which that inner experience transforms further. However, if you are newer to the meditation practice, or if you are still in some doubt about the exact position of the center of the body, it may be necessary to conjure up some sort of inner object of your own as a starting point for the mind. Such an inner object may be something you can feel, or it may be something you can see. An example of something you can feel might be like an invisible fruit, the presence of which you can feel at the center of your body. Be like a grape or a small nectarine, with a certain weight and texture, certain size and temperature, resting at the center of our body and acting like an anchor for the mind. If you're more into a visual practice, then it might be picture the sun shining with a bright, clear light. It's not particularly mattering whether the picture is in focus Even if it's vague, then we accept it anyway. And if we do find that our attention is distracted away by other things, each time we realize, we simply bring the attention back again. If we're new to meditation, then we may need to persevere with bringing the mind back repeatedly. But each time we do bring the mind back to the center, it will become a little bit easier to keep it there the next time round. It wanders and we bring it back. The inner object disappears, and we can conjure up a new one. The object transforms, and instead of changing it back, we follow it in its new form. And as for the problem of there being an excess of thought in the mind, if you find that is the case, then you may be able to reduce the number of thoughts simply by ignoring them, by starving them of attention. But if the number of thoughts in the mind is really too many, simply to ignore, it may be necessary to return to our good friend, the mantra, hearing the sound of the words Samma Arahang coming up from the center of our body or from the center of that inner object. Almost like a silent music. Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, Samma Arahang, over and over again, lightly, gently and continuously, helping to keep our mind on track at the center, but also reducing the number of thoughts in the mind down to a manageable level, till we reach a point where the mind seems to have settled into silence. We maintain our mind with the utmost of gentleness, never rushing the process, never trying to force our hand. Continue in this way for a few more moments now in silence, until we come to the appropriate time. Samma Samma over again, lightly, gently and continuously, helping to keep your mind on track at the center of the body while at the same time reducing down the number of thoughts in the mind to a manageable level, eventually to a point where only silence reigns in the mind. The mind can focus on the inner object that we have chosen. We find our attention wandering away to other things each time we realize. Bring our attention back. The object disappears, we can think of a new one. If it changes, we follow it in its new form. If we feel uncomfortable, we can try changing or adjusting our position. We try to do so in a way that neither perturbs the state of mind inside ourselves that we've built up for ourselves, nor disturbs the people around us. We continue to keep our mind on track in this way for a few more moments in silence, lightly and gently, continuously at the center of our body, for a few more moments now in silence. We continue to maintain our attention at the center of the body the whole time. Always at the center of whatever inner experience we've built up for ourselves as a result of the meditations so far. Some people, the inner experience will add up to a sense of inner brightness, in which case we can place our attention at the center of the inner brightness very gently, in a way that allows the brightness to spread outwards from that central point. For others for whom the meditation is something more like an inner feeling, you can place the attention very gently at the center of the feeling, in a way that allows the inner feeling to become larger in size, spreading outwards from that central point. For others still, it will be some sort of inner picture. And in the same way, we can place our attention very gently at the center of the picture, in a way that allows the picture to become larger in size, spreading outwards. This process of allowing the inner experience to expand is known as the spreading of loving kindness. Initially, we allow our inner experience to extend in this way until it fills the whole of our own body, making the wish at the center of ourselves that we may be well and happy, free from all suffering. Again, from our center, but extending the loving kindness outwards beyond ourselves. We allow the loving kindness to spread outwards to fill the whole of the meditation hall, further still outwards to the whole of the meditation center, while at the same time making the wish at the center of ourselves that all living beings in the meditation center may be touched by our loving kindness, that those living beings may be well and happy, free from all suffering, live together in peace and harmony. And again, from our center, but extending our loving kindness further still. If it's easier, we can imagine spreading loving kindness across a map, seen in bird's eye view. We extend loving kindness outwards, the whole of Azusa, further outwards to the whole of LA, in all directions all around. Extending our loving kindness so that it touches all living beings in the valley. I wish that all those living beings may be well and happy, free from suffering, and live together in peace and harmony. Extending loving kindness to the whole of California, to the neighboring states, and all the states of America. The wish that all living beings therein be touched by our loving kindness. That all those living beings may be well and happy, free from suffering, live together in peace and harmony. And extend loving kindness to the whole of North America. Further still to all the continents of the world. So that our loving kindness extends across the whole of the face of this planet. Making the wish that all living beings, whether on the land, in the air, or in the sea, be touched by our loving kindness. That all those living beings may be well and happy, free from suffering, live together in peace and harmony. True peace might prevail on our planet within the space of our own lifetimes. We can extend loving kindness further, outwards into the universe around, in all the 6 directions, extending loving kindness in the forward direction, extending loving kindness to the back, extending loving kindness to our left, and extending loving kindness to our right. Extending loving kindness above us, and extending loving kindness below. Extending loving kindness without bounds or limits, till it becomes a sort of universal love, reaching everywhere in the universe, touching all living beings therein, without exception. Again, with the wish that all living beings may be well and happy, free from suffering, live together in peace and harmony. And we can extend love and kindness to particular loved ones. Towards those for whom we feel a sense of gratitude, towards those who are still alive, and to those who have already passed. We can extend loving kindness in this way for the last few moments of our meditation practice together, until we come to the appropriate time. สัพพพุทธานุภาเวนะสัพพธัมมานุภาเวนะสัพพสังฆานุภาเวนะสัทธาโสธีปะวันตุเท So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position and to gently finish your practice. So meditation can help dispel the darkness of ignorance by facilitating the cultivation of the inner light of wisdom. By meditating more, you will get the mindfulness and eventually knowledge to see beyond the compelling but illusory nature of your thoughts, while gaining the motivation to commit to a life path more realistically aligned with your values. And in this respect, and in the absence of any questions again this session, I have 3 stories about acceptance to tell you today. The first is a story about a person who found a perceived problem was no longer a problem as soon as they were able to accept it. The other 2 stories are about how acceptance can lead people to find peace and satisfaction with life despite irreversible health conditions. So my first is a Buddhist story about self-acceptance from the Namasiti Jataka. Once upon a time, there was a world-famous teacher in Taxila in what would be called Pakistan in the present day. He had 500 of the smartest students who learned sacred teachings from him. It just so happened that one of these smart students had been named Bapaka by his parents, and the meaning of the word Bapaka is bad or jinx. One day it occurred to him, whenever I'm told, "Come here, Jinx," "Go away, Jinx," "Do this, Jinx," it's not nice for me or others, it sounds disgraceful and unlucky. So he went to the teacher and asked him to give him a more auspicious name, one that would bring good fortune rather than bad. The teacher said, "Go, my son, go wherever you like and find a more fortunate name. When you return, I will officially give you your new name." So the young man called Jinx left the city and traveled from village to village until he came to a big city. In that city, a man had just died, and Jinx asked what his name was. The people said his name was Jivaka, which means alive. "What? A person called alive is also dead?" asked Jinx. The people answered, whether his name be alive or whether it be dead, in either case he must die. A name is merely a word used to recognize a person. Only a fool would not know this. After hearing this, Jinx no longer felt so bad about his own name. But he didn't feel good about it either. As he continued on his way through the city, a dead slave girl was being beaten by her masters in the street. He asked, "Why is she being beaten?" And he was told, because she is a slave until she pays back the loan to her masters. She has come home from working with no wages to pay interest on her debt. "And what is her name?" he asked. "Her name is Dhanapali, which means rich," they said. "By her name she is rich, but she has no money to pay interest?" asked Jinx. They said, whether her name be rich or whether it be poor, in either case she has no money. A name is merely a word used to recognize a person. Only a fool would not know this. After hearing this, Jinx became even less interested in changing his name. After leaving the city, along the roadside, he met a man who had lost his way. He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Pandaka," which means tour guide. "You mean to say that even a person named tour guide has gotten lost?" asked Jinx. Then the man said, "Whether my name be tour guide or whether it be tourist, in either case I've lost my way. A name is merely a word used to recognize a person. Only a fool would not know this." Now, completely satisfied with his own name, Jinx returned to his teacher. The world-famous teacher of Taxila asked him, "How are you, my son? Have you found a good name?" He answered, "Sir, those named alive and dead both die. Rich and poor may be penniless. Tour guide and tourist can get lost. Now I know that a name is merely a signifier used to recognize a person. The name does not make things happen, only deeds do. So I'm satisfied with my name, there's no point in changing it. The teacher summarized the lesson his student had learned this way. By seeing alive as dead, rich as poor, tour guide as lost, Jinx has accepted himself. The moral of this story is, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. In this case, you could substitute what you're named for any other thing in your life that's holding you back, that you have to accept, whether it be negative thoughts you are in denial about or dissatisfaction about the way you look, your body shape, gender orientation, sexual orientation, or physical capacity. If you're able to accept it, often the part of your problem you're able to do something about, which is your response to it, gains the traction that allows you to actually do something about it. What we can see from this story is that a person may find a perceived problem is no longer a problem as soon as they are able to accept it. We now turn to a story of acceptance for a more high-stakes life challenge. And the story comes from the late Peter Matthiessen's book The Snow Leopard, in which he describes his visit to a llama with crippling arthritis, and who lives in a really isolated region of Tibet. Peter was trying to get his head around understanding how it feels to be this llama. He was trying to empathize with what it would be like to know you're never going to be able to leave where you are because of your condition. Probably a little bit like lockdown these days. So, Peter decided via translator to ask the Lama about his experience. And I'm going to read you some of what he wrote. Peter narrates, "The Lama of the Crystal Monastery appears to be a very happy man, and yet I wonder how he feels about his isolation. He hasn't left the monastery in 8 years now because of his legs, and he may never leave again." So Peter asked the Lama, really, what's it like? Here's the response. Peter writes, "This holy man of great directness and simplicity, with big white teeth shining, laughs out loud in an infectious way at the question, indicating his twisted legs without a trace of self-pity or bitterness, as if they belong to all of us. He casts his arms wide to the sky, and the snow mountains, and the high sun, and dancing sheep, and cries, 'Of course I'm happy. It's wonderful, especially when I have no choice.'" Matthiesen goes on to say he feels he has been struck in the chest with the power of this monk's wholehearted acceptance. So this is the key. This is the shift from the egoistic state that's busy navigating and trying to avoid things and get things to this freedom and happiness that realizes that we don't have a choice, not in the big things. But we do have a choice about our intention and inclination to open our hearts to how it is. So this has been the story about a monk who used acceptance to find peace despite an irreversible condition. And you can probably extrapolate how such exultant power of mind could similarly help a person on their deathbed to embrace their condition and leave this world triumphantly. Acceptance, by its very nature, is imperfect, it's messy, and often unpleasant. The upside is it can ultimately open the door to a place of growth, a sense of freedom, and a life familiar with ease. Acceptance is crucial to helping anyone move beyond the stuckness of fear and suffering. Today, the final story I'd like to share is the experience of a lady called Shunya Anding of San Francisco, who had to deal with a diagnosis of an autoimmune deficiency. Here's what she said. "Years ago, being the natural, striving, fun-seeking, achievement-oriented person I was, I ignored the fact that my body felt like a truck had run over it. I pushed, faked, and hid what my body was really feeling until it all came to a screeching halt. Diagnosed with lupus, an autoimmune disease, and a future of chronic pain or worse, I had to give up the impressive job, the active social life, and the self-image that had always propped me up in the world. And then what was left? Instinctively, I wanted to go back to the way things were, to repatch it all back together again. Fortunately, I inherently felt the impossibility of all that, and so the work began. I started taking a meditation class and then a Buddhist practice, and one day sitting silently, feeling my body breathing, listening inwardly to what was there, the hard, guarding shell around my heart broke. I had to accept there was no going back to normal. There was only being with what is and opening to where that might lead. That being said, there were a lot of tears and a lot of pain. In other words, it was messy. I went through a series of small steps, which took a while. I had to accept that I could no longer keep up with my carefree, energetic friends as they traveled around the world and partied around the clock. I had to accept I would no longer create interesting buildings as an architect or participate in gallery shows as an artist. Most difficult of all, I had to accept I could no longer be the fun-loving, happy person my husband needed, at least not right away. I had to accept my life had suddenly taken a new direction and be receptive to the possible changes that this might bring. Receptivity was the key to opening toward inner growth and intimacy, as well as a place of gentleness, all new territory for me. Result was to surrender to what is present, which floods me with a feeling of relief. It is more honest, more pure, less tinged with the shoulds of daily life, as in the pressure to be more productive, to be energetically outgoing, to follow through on all my perceived responsibilities as a daughter, a wife, a friend, allowing myself to actually be the way I felt without the weight of someone else's expectations, was the beginning of moving towards physical and emotional health. Resisting the inconvenient truth that all aspects of my life had changed made the changes much more emotionally painful. Stuck in this place of denial, I was unable to connect in the ways that nurture deep friendships and that create authentic appreciation for life's small pleasures. Embracing life, not just the edited parts of it, but all of it, is a place of wisdom and grace. I found this place in meditation because, as quiet as your body and mind can get in meditation, at all times it is gently moving with every breath. Acceptance helped me to learn to listen within, and then trust what I heard. Trust just what my personal world was asking me to respond to, and step peacefully forward into that vibrant flow of life. And just as an epilogue, Shunya Anding went on to become a successful wellness counselor for others with chronic illness. So in conclusion, we all hold on to some kind of emotional pain by pushing it away, in an effort not to be hurt, which ultimately and ironically keeps this pain very close. When such pain comes up, we need to ask ourselves what it would take to let it go. What is it that wants to be acknowledged and ultimately accepted? And then accept this pain, whether physical or emotional, which leads to tight muscles and mental habits, a pattern of tenseness and protectiveness that would otherwise suck the joy and spontaneity out of our life. Pulling away from our pain or ignoring life's difficulties is a kind of resistance, a fighting of gravity, and an easy habit that will not heal our difficulties. The tiring cycle of push and pull of resistance makes everything difficult and takes a lot of energy, draining you of anything positive. We want to respond wholeheartedly, not with dullness or avoidance or anger. If you come across such negative thinking, it's worth asking yourself, what am I resisting? And even better, do I want to be in acceptance mode or resistance drain? And finally, what is it that I need to accept? The danger lies in blocking too much of ourself, guarding against the pain, the fears, or sense of being trapped in denial. So, in conclusion, acceptance is not resignation. It's not passively giving up. It takes courage and strength to recognize and acknowledge what's there, from a place of empowerment and choice, instead of feeling like a victim of fate. It can be a beautiful sense of coming home to the body in the present moment, a feeling of wholeness and strength, better to face your circumstances, whatever they may be. Acceptance is a starting point for the journey towards embracing what life is all about, in spite of obstacles. Staying true to our entire experience allows us to loosen our responses, drop the guard, and be in a place of acceptance. So, if you are talking of getting out of your head and into your life, acceptance is not the end of the story, but it opens the door to the true patience to untangle ourselves from our thinking and refocus our energy on solving otherwise insurmountable problems in our real-world lives. So let me finish up with a quick mention about temple support and a news update about the availability of meditation teaching in English. At the moment, with the extra strict stay-at-home order statewide in California, anyone wishing to make a contribution to the temple in person should contact the temple first. If you would like to bring food to the temple during this period, all you need to do is phone up Crystal first on 626-991-6958, and a monk in PPE will come to receive the offering and give a short blessing at the temple gate. English-speaking monks will be on duty on Wednesdays and Saturdays. As for temple donations, you can see the details on the ticker tape for those wishing to support the temple without attending in person. Needless to say, the whole temple would like to rejoice in the merits of all taking the opportunity to support the temple in this way. Meditation is particularly valuable in this COVID era to help us cope with the extended lockdown. And in this respect, here at the temple, although there are still no face-to-face teaching sessions for the interim, you can access Dhamma teaching in English at the YouTube channel called Peace Point Meditation, or the Facebook page of Peace Point Meditation. For those of you who have been following my talks, you may be interested to subscribe to a YouTube channel which I have recently set up in my own name, which can be found by searching for Prat Nicholas Thanissaro on YouTube, where I have uploaded more than 100 clips of meditations, Dharma talks, funeral talks, talks for children, and so forth. Meanwhile, there is a streamlined schedule by popular request for 2021 for the Peace Point broadcasts. Every Sunday morning, you have now got me with live material and archived material on alternating Sundays. Venerable Sopon now appears every Thursday evening. Meanwhile, Peace Breaks from Peace Point are broadcast every Monday and Wednesday between 7 and 7:30 p.m. There is a silent meditation broadcast each Friday between 7 and 8 p.m. For the benefit of families listening in, there's also a special show for children in English known as Shining Stars that goes out between 7:30 and 8 p.m. every Monday evening with bedtime stories and meditation short enough for the benefit of younger listeners. Outside of the live streams and on-demand programming, there is also the newly updated Mind Gem app, which you can download for free, allowing you to listen to meditation and Dhamma talks in English on your cell phone, even when you are offline. And so this session we've looked at the topic of getting out of our head and into our lives. For my next live session online with you, which will, fingers crossed, be a week on Sunday morning, we'll be moving on to look at something along the lines of right and wrong worldview. For good measure, I'd like to remind viewers that even better than posting thank you or great talk or sadhu in the broadcast comments, you can email your questions about meditation or whatever you've heard in the lecture to the email address as you can see spelled out in the slide. And I will do my best to answer these questions on my next session. In the meantime, try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Also, despite the cabin fever of lockdown, may you all be able to engage with the ability to accept things you can't change about your life, and also commit to action in order to overcome those things more easily as we put 2020 in the rearview mirror. So for today, this is me, Prat Nicholas Thanissaro, signing off for this session. So long, folks, and stay safe.